she discovered the incredible truth behind her $2 millionaire boyfriend, a man she once rejected. Emma stared at her reflection in the dreary hospital break room mirror, her signature bun slightly askew, sweat beads unnaturally large against her palm. The clinical environment was cold and oppressive, much like the weight of growing responsibility on her shoulders. Student loans loomed an unrelenting specter, tainting her dreams of a future free from the constant grind. Every day, she poured herself into her work as a nurse, scrubbing in for long shifts that drained her energy but filled her heart when she helped patients through the worst of their battles. Outside of her job, her family commitments wrapped tightly around her like a noose, a single mother struggling to make ends meet, balancing bills that never seemed to end. Jake's laughter echoed in the corners of her mind, a sharp reminder of a past she pushed away. Was it really a mistake? Or did breaking things off with him when he meant everything just highlight her own inadequacies? As she scrolled through her phone during a brief moment of respite, a news alert caught her eye. Jake, the boy she had once turned her back upon in a moment of shame, was a self-made tech millionaire. The headline felt like a dagger twisting in her gut. Success came so easily to others, how could she compete? In that moment, she wrestled with the bitterness of pride and the shame of vulnerability. How was she ever to accept help from the very man she had hidden from? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into a swirling blur of internal dialogue and sleepless nights. She felt trapped in a cycle of anxiety, her heart racing as rumors swirled about impending budget cuts at the hospital. It could mean fewer nurses, limited care, and exhausted resources. How could her hometown decision-makers cut corners on the very fabric of their community? Anguish built inside her, the thought of not being able to provide for patients suffocating her spirit, making every breath feel heavy. Would she fight for her workplace or simply let it die with the same resolute spirit as her hopes? Just as despair threatened to engulf her, Jake appeared in those shimmering hospital halls, a shining knight with a savior complex. He proposed a donation, a lifeline. She felt the conflict wash over her like a tidal wave. How could she stand there and accept charity from the one she had pushed away? Affection and resentment tangled, coiling tighter around her heart, leaving her gasping for release. As they met night after night, laughter masked the deep-rooted emotions that threatened to spill. With each exchange, the foundation of who they were began to shatter and shift. Jake's relentless work ethic reminded her of the dreams she once clutched tightly, now dulled by reality. Brimming with secrets, aching with unspoken truths, their conversations revealed the fragility of their struggles, two hearts yearning for connection yet held hostage by the scars of rejection. Now, hovering on the brink of decision, Emma stood trembling, exposed. Budget negotiations flared and darkness loomed, her hospital's fate hung precariously in the balance. As Jake reached toward her, offering not just financial hope, she faced her greatest fear. Can love defy the past when she was wrought with uncertainty? The question loomed larger than life itself. Could she embrace a future unfettered by shame, allowing their once-rejected love to take root in fertile ground where hope dared to breathe? Emma's heart raced as she watched Jake, his eyes filled with a mix of determination and compassion, standing before her. His offer to help weighed heavily in the air, a tangible entity filled with unspoken possibilities. She had spent endless nights wrestling with her regrets and wondering if accepting his generosity would strip her of her dignity. Could she truly let go of that pride? With each interaction, she saw glimpses of the man she had once known. The laughter they shared opened a door she thought was sealed shut. His success radiated confidence, a stark contrast to her self-doubt. She marveled at the thought of what they could achieve together. Yet, the specter of her past decisions haunted her like a shadow, whispering that accepting help could mean igniting old wounds. As days drifted on, the unrelenting stress of her work environment compounded her feelings of inadequacy. Emma struggled through her shifts, each patient and family interaction igniting a fierce sense of purpose but also a gnawing ache of fear and uncertainty. She wanted to be the nurse they deserved, a beacon of hope in their darkest moments, yet budget cuts loomed, threatening to strip that light away. Emma had never turned away from a challenge in her life, but now she faced one that was insidious and systemic, making her feel smaller than ever. Feeling cornered, she started to contemplate her options. Could her relationship with Jake be redefined? Was it possible that they weren't just two people from divergent paths but allies in a world that seemed intent on tearing them apart? As she pictured their dual fight against systemic challenges, the realization hit her: accepting help could be a sign of strength rather than weakness. It could cultivate growth, enabling her to evolve beyond the limits she'd set for herself, but as that flicker of clarity emerged, it was quickly extinguished by familiar insecurities. Replaying their past in her mind, she considered how her heart had demanded she protect herself from pain. Emma's internal dialogue intensified, swirling questions of worthlessness bombarding her. Was she just chasing shadows in a fairy tale fantasy, or could she toil alongside Jake, both of them writing a new chapter built on collaboration and resilience? Every time Jake approached her now, she felt the layers of her defenses peeling back, vulnerable and alive. They were no longer simply navigating the most challenging chapters of their lives, they were propelled by their intertwined journeys. Paradoxically, vulnerability became power for Emma. It gave her clarity and the fortified will to consider a partnership in a broader sense, one that could impact her job and their relationship. Around this time, Jake made one final push, suggesting a collaborative initiative aimed not just at re-establishing the hospital's budget but reforming it entirely. The idea sent shockwaves through Emma's mind. It called her to step up in ways she never considered, and yet it terrified her. The stakes were too high. Now, standing at the precipice of the unknown, Emma realized she had a choice to make, not just about accepting help but about embracing her potential to lead and inspire change. The hospital's fate and her future collided in a singular moment. Taking a deep breath, she felt the pulse of courage thrumming inside her, a growing sense of resolve to fight not just for herself but for those patients and families who depended on her. The pivotal moment of decision loomed over her. What if her acceptance of Jake's assistance opened doors to something much bigger? What if this alliance could shake the foundations of a failing healthcare system? In that crucial instant, the moment of truth arrived. Would she seize the opportunity to carve a new life for herself and those she cherished, or would the specter of her past choices hold her captive? Emma's heart raced with both trepidation and hope. As she took a step toward Jake, the world around her faded away, leaving only the pulsing question: was she ready to face both love and ambition head-on, together? With determination coursing through her veins, Emma stepped into the uncertainty of collaboration. She met Jake's gaze, moments stretching between them like the space before a storm. His unwavering confidence sparked something daring within her, a resurgence of the woman she had always aspired to be. As they began discussing their strategy over coffee in a small cafe near the hospital, Emma felt the trepidation that had clung to her like a heavy cloak start to lift. Jake proposed that they canvass the hospital staff, unearthing their ideas and grievances to form a comprehensive reform plan. The thought energized her, igniting ambition long dormant under layers of self-doubt. They would gather stories, build a coalition of shared passion, and use those voices to fuel their advocacy for change. "You're going to lead this, Emma." Jake's voice was steady, reassuring. It was a gentle push out of the shadows and into the light. "You know this place better than anyone. Your insight into patient care is invaluable." Yet with his encouragement came a surge of unease. Could she become the leader she hoped to embody? Her mind churned with images of past failures, moments when she had faltered and retreated, paralyzed by second-guessing and anxiety. Each recollection was a chilling reminder of how unworthy she felt, the barrier between who she was and who she wanted to be. "Led?" Her voice trembled slightly. "I'm just a nurse trying to make a difference. I don't know the first thing about leading an initiative like this." "Yes, you do," Jake countered, leaning in with an earnestness that captivated her attention. "You've always been a leader. This is just you embracing that truth." The flicker of excitement and fear twisted and turned within her. Reconstructing the hospital's future seemed insurmountable, yet something greater lingered in the air, an opportunity to influence lives beyond patient care. Could this endeavor transcend her insecurities? Was she capable of stitching hope into the fabric of their workplace through resolute advocacy? She took a sip of her coffee, struggling to suppress the rising doubts. What if I fail? What if the staff doesn't trust me? What if Emma, he interrupted, his expression frank. What if they do? What if you succeed? Her breath caught as she contemplated the wonders of success. Strong voices united, systemic transformation realized. The image of newly championed policies instilling compassion and care lingered tantalizingly close. Days turned into weeks as they strategized, delved into research, and gathered testimonies from fellow staff. Each conversation reinforced Emma's resolve, introducing her to hidden depths of her own conviction for the cause. Her original apprehensions morphed into distinct purpose, shaping her into a figure of resilience. She was no longer just a nurse, she was stepping into an advocate's shoes, linking her personal journey of struggle to a collective fight against inefficiency and despair. Yet, as Emma became entwined in this newfound mission, the ghosts of fear persisted. The nagging voices re-emerged, mocking her confidence. Even as she built rapport with nurses, conducted meetings, and led discussions, intermittent flashes of writer's block clouded her mind during presentations. Was she truly sufficient for this role, or was she merely borrowing the cloak of leadership from Jake? Caught in this wrestling match between doubt and self-efficacy, an unexpected phone call shattered her moment of clarity. The director of hospital operations summoned her for an urgent meeting. As anxiety surged, she barely managed to compose herself. What could they possibly want? Did they catch wind of her initiatives? Little did she know, this meeting would catapult her to the next decisive juncture, one that would demand her to confront her fears head-on, irrevocably propelling her journey into uncharted territory. As she prepared to step into the director's office, the doubt that plagued her sharpened into focus. The stakes had risen, and the realities of her ambition now felt dangerously close. Would she rise to the occasion and transform the narrative of her life, or would she retreat once again to the shadows she had fought so hard to escape? Emma took a deep breath, trying to center herself as she approached the director's office. The polished wood of the door loomed ahead like a gate to some unknown realm, each step amplifying the thudding in her chest. She felt an odd combination of nausea and anticipation. What if this was her moment? What if it was also her downfall? Meeting after meeting, Emma had transformed from a nurse clinging to her comfort zone into a nexus of ideas and solutions, a transformation she had only begun to grasp. Yet the specter of doubt still shadowed her, whispering maliciously about her inadequacies. She clenched her fists, striving to silence those voices, silently vowing that today would be different. "Emma, come in," the director called, his tone all business. The door clicked shut behind her as she stepped into the formal space, her pulse racing ahead of her. Seated across from a mahogany desk, the director glanced up from a stack of papers. His brow furrowed slightly, as if trying to gauge the seriousness of her demeanor. "I wanted to discuss some reports that reached my desk, particularly regarding the changes proposed for nursing practices." Emma's heart sank. Reports? Had they received feedback on the outreach initiative she and Jake had been developing? The brutally honest reactions from the staff echoed in her mind, infusing her with a mixture of pride and terror. She had shared their concerns, their hope for a better workplace. But what if those reports reflected her shortcomings? "Yes, I've been working closely with several nurses to gather their insights," she managed, her voice steadying slowly. "There are numerous areas we could improve upon for patient care." The director leaned back, scrutinizing her as though she were an equation he was trying to solve. "And how do you believe these changes would affect our staff loyalty and patient outcomes?" The question seemed deceptively simple yet resonated deeply within her. Loyalty and outcomes were the lifeblood of any medical institution, the very essence of her vocation. Yet Emma had started to see these elements through a broader lens, one that included the voices of her fellow nurses and the palpable need for systemic shifts. "I believe that starting from the ground up," she said, feeling an unexpected swell of conviction, "we can create a culture of trust and communication. Staff who feel heard and valued are more inclined to take ownership of their work, which inevitably leads to better care." A flicker of interest passed over his face, and she seized the opportunity. "Many staff feel overwhelmed and unheard. Our initiative seeks to address this by ensuring their input shapes the reforms we propose." For a moment, the director was quiet, appraising her with a blend of skepticism and intrigue. She felt exposed, like a raw nerve laid bare, desperately hoping he would recognize the determination simmering beneath her composure. Could he see her earnestness? Was there even a slim chance that he might endorse her perspectives? Well, it seems you've put significant thought into this, he replied slowly. I'd like to suggest a pilot program based on your proposal. Emma's stomach flipped at the unexpected shift. This was the moment she had yearned for the chance to implement tangible changes, but also a responsibility she had to earn. Too many hopes hinged on her abilities. Would she falter, or rise? However, the director paused, his expression hardening slightly. This initiative needs metrics. I expect accountability. If you can produce positive outcomes within 6 months, we can discuss scaling it. But if not, the air shifted as her heartbeat quickened. It felt like a challenge lodged within a threat. Emma understood it was an opportunity, yet she sensed it was also a test of her mettle. Could she handle the pressure? Could she convert her newfound determination into tangible progress? Yes, I understand, Emma replied, her voice a composed whisper despite the whirlwind of thoughts converging in her mind. I won't let you down. As she exited, the gravity of the exchange weighed heavily on her shoulders. The director's doubt lingered, echoing her own internal conflicts. Yet, for the first time, fear began to morph into a fuel, and urgency igniting within her to prove herself, to rise above the shadows of her past. But as she stepped back into the familiar hallway, a chilling uncertainty crept in. Could she balance this new expectation with the vulnerabilities she still grappled with? The challenges on the horizon were daunting, and she couldn't shake the notion that soon she'd have to confront not just her internal demons, but also those who doubted her. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, interrupting her thoughts. The name flashing on the screen caused her heart to stop. A familiar voice she hadn't heard in years now sought her attention. What could this possibly mean for her mission and for her story? The past, which she had fought so hard to escape, was reaching out once more. Emma stood frozen in the hallway, her heart hammering against her ribs as she stared at the name on her phone screen. Mark. Memories of shared laughter and whispered dreams flooded her mind, intertwined with the unresolved tension of their breakup. The comfort of familiarity clashed with the impulsive urge to reject him once again. She hesitated, recalling phone conversations during late-night shifts, dreams composed of hope and ambition. But what would the conversation mean now? Would it wreak havoc on the professional path she had diligently begun to carve? Tentatively, she swiped to answer, the auditory click reverberating in her chest. Emma, Mark's voice broke through, sounding both the same and achingly different. Warm yet coated with an air of vulnerability. It's been a while. Her throat felt constricted, emotions swirling like a storm as they rapidly ebbed and flowed. It has. I mean, she faltered, searching for the words that wouldn't trigger their tangled past into a present crisis. What is going on? I need to talk about something important. Can we meet? His request ignited a flurry of thoughts. What could be so critical that he had reached out now? Did it have to do with his work, or perhaps something deeper? This was not the reunion she had planned for. She had set her sights on a brighter future, one that required clarity and focus. Letting Mark back in felt akin to opening Pandora's box. Yet the unexpected urgency in his tone coaxed her into a corner filled with raw curiosity. The director's words echoed, the pressure mounting on her shoulders. Where? She asked, surprising herself at how gripped she was by an undeniable need for resolution. Can I come to your place? It's about that time we lost, he stammered, against her better judgment. Curiosity propelled her to agree. She had grown, learned, and embraced new dimensions of herself since their separation. Perhaps this meeting was a chance to confront the ghosts of her past rather than allowing them to haunt her decisions. Once home, Emma paced the living room, her thoughts racing. The pilot program awaited her attention. Metrics needed to be organized and refined, yet her mind inserted Mark into her equation with relentless insistence. She could already foresee the distractions, the emotional pulls that would test her discipline. When the doorbell rang, Emma's stomach knotted with trepidation. She opened the door to reveal Mark, looking remarkably the same, yet with unmasked traces of life's imperfections etched on his features. It was as if he had gathered the years and experiences into a palpable aura surrounding him. Emma, he said, searching her eyes for familiarity. Thank you for seeing me. Let us just get to it then, she opted, bypassing pleasantries. What is it? His gaze faltered momentarily before he gathered his thoughts, then spoke. I heard about your new initiative at the hospital. The pilot program? That's why I came. Her heart raced, not for the reasons she initially anticipated. You heard about it? And? I want to help, he offered, an unexpected light of sincerity illuminating his features. I've been working on some innovative data analysis techniques in my new role that could assist you with the metrics. The offer struck a deep chord within her. Could she invite him into her professional circle again, intertwining not only their past but now their futures? Why now, Mark? After all this time? Emma confronted, fishing for the deeper motivations behind his request that he hesitated, as if the weight of honesty pressed heavily upon him. Because I realized that abandoning you meant abandoning a part of myself. I want to support you, maybe even make amends. Emma's insides churned. This was not just a professional proposition, it carried the ghosts of their relationship. Did she dare allow him back into her life, blending the personal with the professional? Would he navigate this new chapter as she aimed to reshape not only the nursing practice but also her own identity? The moment stretched between them, charged with anticipation. Yet, the underlying tension remained. Could she trust him to stay, or would he turn tail like before? She needed to choose her next move carefully, and the responsibility felt daunting. The stakes had never been higher, but Mark's re-emergence might serve as both a boon and a bane. Would this collaboration pave the way to success, or would it deepen the fracture lines of her already willed independence? And as these thoughts clawed at her mind, another truth swirled unsettlingly. Was she ready to confront not only her evolving professional realm but the walls built around her heart? The clock ticked relentlessly, marking a line between what was comfortable and the bold, uncertain future she yearned for. Would she step forward toward him, toward her goals, or retreat into her safe uncertainties? For the first time in a long time, Emma could see that the path stretched out before her, no longer just fraught with obstacles, but shimmering with opportunities, a reflection of her own growing resolve. Only time would tell if Mark was a catalyst for her success or a distraction that could unravel her renewed purpose. Emma took a deep breath, her pulse racing as she tried to parse Mark's unexpected proposal. The air between them buzzed with unspoken histories, layered emotions, and stark possibilities. She had built walls around her ambitions, brick by cautious brick, and now Mark stood at the gates, clear intent written on his face. For all she knew, this could be a chance for collaboration or another step into confusion. What kind of help are you talking about? She pressed, her voice steady despite the tempest swirling inside her. He leaned in, eyes eager and earnest. I understand data patterns, trends, and how to quantify success. I can create a model that will give you insights into your pilot program that will streamline processes and improve patient outcomes. This could position you as a leader in innovative nursing practices. Her mind spun with the implications of his offer. The project involved a hefty load of metrics and organization, and despite her initial reservations, she could feel herself being pulled into the vision he painted. But how could she be sure he wouldn't retreat at the first sign of pressure? Why do I get the feeling you're here for more than just numbers? She asked, catching the longing in his gaze. It felt like a test, a probe into terrain she'd drawn boundaries around for so long. Mark's expression softened, revealing the vulnerability she had instinctively guarded against. Because, perhaps I am. I miss working with you, Emma. But I also want to make things right. I know I messed up in the past. You deserve support, not just from your colleagues, but from someone who genuinely cares about the work you're doing. His candor struck a chord, but she had spent years learning to lean on herself, building a professional identity that depended on her decisions and capabilities alone. If she allowed Mark back into her life, especially in such a significant way, would she be redefining her ambitions or inviting chaos into her carefully curated existence? I've worked hard to get here, she responded, keeping her voice even. This project means everything to me, Mark. I can't afford to lose focus or, worse, lose sight of my own vision because of us. Then let me help you achieve it, he insisted, his conviction sharp and clear. Doing this together is a leap forward, a chance for both of us to grow, professionally and personally. His statement hung heavy in the air, pulling at the strands of her ambition and emotions. Could she truly collaborate with him without falling into the patterns of their past? More importantly, was this relationship capable of transformation, or would it remain a tether to unfulfilled expectations and old heartbreak? Emma glanced around her living room, the walls adorned with snippets of her progress, a framed photo of her graduation, notes from her nursing program, and yellowed newspaper clippings from her earlier achievements. It was a shrine built on hope and practicality, firmly staked in her past yet facing forward. "I need time to think," she said finally, her voice firm but cautious. "This could either be the greatest chance for success or the beginnings of overlap I'm not prepared for." Mark nodded solemnly, yet the glint in his eyes suggested he would wait, ready to navigate whatever may come next. As she closed the door behind him, Emma felt tension coil tightly within her. The project awaited her focus, but so did the decisions regarding Mark. The dual burden pressed against her chest, heavy yet exhilarating. She had given so much to her career, prioritizing it above all else, yet here stood an opportunity that could reshape everything. The bittersweet taste of uncertainty lingered. Emma craved clarity but found herself at a crossroads, questioning whether to redefine the formulas governing her heart, her responsibilities, or both. With her thoughts spiraling into self-reflection and potential outcomes, the clock reminded her how precious comprehension could be should she consolidate her growing identity, or could a union with Mark truly accelerate her journey rather than deter it. As she shifted her focus back to the pilot program, Emma felt a drive ignite within her, one that surged forth with every moment, fueled by past mistakes and new possibilities. But what would she discover about herself as she entwined her professional ambitions with layers of personal history? The time for contemplation was rapidly running out. Would she seek clarity in collaboration, or fortify her resolve to chart her own path forward? As she sat down at her desk, the weight of the decision pressed heavily on her mind, prodding her to confront the audacity of human connections in her life. Emma knew that her next step would require profound introspection, challenging not just what kind of partner she wanted, but the leader she aspired to be. And in that moment, deep down, she also recognized, the answers lay not only in intellect but in understanding the depth of her desires. But could she navigate this landscape without losing sight of her goals? The stakes had transformed. Time would reveal if love and ambition could coexist within her evolving narrative. Emma leaned back in her chair, heart thrumming as she stared at the glowing screen in front of her. The potential impact of Mark's proposal swirled through her mind like a tempest. Would embracing their collaboration bolster her standing in the nursing field, or would it compromise the carefully orchestrated path she had established? She pulled out her notepad, the blank pages staring back at her, challenging her to map out her thoughts. It was time to strategize, to deconstruct her feelings and the practicalities of the pilot program into tangible steps. First, she began with the project. What positions her to lead not just in practice, but in innovation? Her priority was always the well-being of patients, but Mark's proposal brought a new dimension that could amplify that focused, data-driven healthcare solutions. If she were to engage with him, she needed to be clear. Collaboration never came without risks. But what intrigued her more than the metrics and models was the prospect of personal growth, the overlapping of their professional identities. Emma acknowledged that the very essence of her strength lay in her ability to adapt and innovate. Embracing Mark's offer could challenge her predefined limits. She dashed down her thoughts, creating lists that ranged from potential benefits to the pitfalls of working with someone from her past. Each element unfolded layers of her ambition, revealing a tapestry woven with both hope and apprehension. The mingling of their past relationship with present aspirations loomed large, and the fear of regression gnawed at her gut. Emma paused, realizing that choosing to accept Mark's help wasn't just a business proposition, it was a confrontation with unresolved feelings. She had invested so much into building walls, yet here they were, inching closer to dismantling them. This was more than a professional endeavor, it was a reckoning with the fears that had shaped her decisions. Later that evening, she poured herself a glass of wine, leaning against the kitchen counter, seeking solace in the quietness of her home. The familiar scent of aged wood mingled with the aroma of the wine. Clarity washed over Emma. Maybe it was time to allow the process of collaboration to unfold, to step forward not just as a strong professional but also as a woman willing to embrace the unknown. But therein lay her dilemma. Was she prepared to confront the duality of pursuing both ambition and connection? The past showed her the fragility of emotions. Open-heartedness had previously led her to vulnerability, a place she'd deferred for far too long. Did allowing Mark back in mean she would have to navigate potential disappointment and heartache once more? Perhaps the most daunting question lingered in the air. What did she truly want? The incentive for success beckoned. She envisioned gaining recognition, becoming a hallmark in the field of innovative nursing. But was she willing to risk personal disappointment as the cost? It was clear, this decision would determine whether she would thrive in her field or withdraw behind the walls she had painstakingly built. Determined to move forward practically, she scheduled an early morning meeting with Mark for the next day. The invitation sent ripples of uncertainty coursing through her, but it felt like a necessary confrontation of her fears. When the sun crested the horizon, illuminating her kitchen in warm hues, Emma put pen to paper, drafting the parameters of their collaboration. She outlined the goals she desired to achieve, clear metrics to measure their success, boundaries to protect her professional vision, and a timeline that kept them accountable. As she finished documenting her ideas, a sense of empowerment surged through her. This was a new chapter, one laced with risks but also potential for remarkable success. Emma realized she had the power to shape this interaction. She could be both the professional leader and the woman who could acknowledge past wounds, but beneath the excitement bubbled a nagging question. Was Mark truly capable of the change he claimed to embody? The stakes felt perilous. Could she truly transform her partnership with Mark into something positive without falling back into old cycles? Just as doubt began to set in, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from Mark, confirming their meeting time and expressing his enthusiasm for getting started. As Emma stared at the screen, she felt an unexpected warmth. Perhaps this wouldn't just be a negotiation of ideas, but an exploration of the potential that had always existed between them. The clock ticked methodically, each second a reminder of her impending decision, a path that intertwined personal desires and professional aspirations wickedly. With resolve setting in, she whispered a silent promise to herself. She would stay true to her ambitions regardless of the outcome. She stood, ready to face whatever may lie ahead. The journey toward redefining her relationship with Mark could either break or fortify her. The moment of truth approached. How she would navigate the collision of heart and ambition remained to be seen. Tomorrow, she would confront the unknown, not just Mark, but the very aspects of herself she had long kept hidden. Would she emerge stronger, or would she falter? As she closed her notebook, the weight of uncertainty coiled around her once more, reminding her that the boundaries of her identity were about to be tested in ways she had never anticipated. Would Mark's presence ultimately propel her forward or entangle her in the complexities of her past? As Emma entered the coffee shop, the smell of freshly brewed coffee combining with the morning air struck a note of nostalgia. She scanned the room, her heart quickening every time her eyes landed on a couple deep in conversation. This atmosphere felt all too familiar, easy laughter mingling with the tension of unspoken truths. Would this meeting be like the others in her past, where playful banter soon evolved into awkward silence, or could it forge a path towards something greater? She arrived early, needing a moment to center herself. Sitting down with her notes in hand, she took a deep breath and reviewed her outline. Clarity had been her companion last night, but now uncertainty crept back as she thought of Mark and their history intertwined with professional ambition. Was it fair to approach this meeting with hope when there was a risk of renewed heartbreak? Each word she had written seemed both empowering and suffocating. When Mark walked through the door, the conversation in her mind stilled. He looked different in the daylight, more grounded and less the chaotic force she remembered from their past. As he approached, Emma's unwavering resolve wobbled slightly. She reminded herself of the stakes. A collaboration could elevate her standing in nursing, but it could also unravel the meticulously crafted barriers around her heart. "Hey, Emma," he said, his smile reaching his eyes. "Thanks for meeting me." "Of course," she replied, forcing herself to hold eye contact. "I think we should get straight to it. We both have a lot at stake." Mark nodded, and they settled into an easy rhythm as they discussed the potential of their project together. With each point she laid out, Emma felt a surge of empowerment. This was what she was born to do: lead, innovate, inspire. But as he chimed in with ideas, adding layers of detail, a flicker of her old vulnerability crept in, whispering reminders of the walls she had erected. "Your insights are really compelling," she admitted, surprised by the authenticity of her own admiration. "But I need to establish clear boundaries. This isn't just about the project, Mark, it's about me navigating my past. Understood, he responded, the seriousness in his tone reflecting her own apprehension. I want us to succeed, both professionally and personally. We can redefine what we've built. His words hit her like a wake-up call. They both had the capability to do better, to uplift each other without falling prey to the traps of their shared history. She felt a rush of adrenaline, daring to believe they could be two entirely different people than before. But then came the moment that turned everything upside down. Emma, there is something important I need to share. He paused, the weight of his tone shifting the atmosphere between them. I know I've let you down in the past, and I've worked hard to change. But I've also realized that I can't just change for the sake of others. It has to be for me to become the person I always wanted to be. Sudden vulnerability painted his face, and Emma felt her heart race. Was this the raw honesty she had yearned for? Or was it merely a clever ruse designed to deepen her emotional entanglement? She felt the breach between ambition and emotional openness widen, forcing her to confront the unsettling truth about her own desires. I need accountability, she said, her voice steady despite her racing thoughts. If we do this together, it has to be on solid ground. I can't go back to that place of uncertainty. I would never want you to, he replied, and as their eyes locked, she saw determination mirrored back at her. Excitement mingled with trepidation, and Emma realized this fragile moment could either empower her or push her back into the shadows she despised. The conversation unfolded, layers peeling back like the pages of a book revealing deeper truths. Each word marked a step forward in their understanding, yet still, Emma wrestled with the impulse to retreat. Could she really trust Mark? Would her ambitions emerge victorious, or would they collapse under the weight of their shared history? As their discussion came to a close, Emma felt the intoxicating blend of hope and fear. Their partnership hung in the balance, and as she prepared to finalize their goals, a sudden thought stopped her cold. Would she be ready to handle a deeper connection with Mark if it meant risking her heart once more? The moment of truth loomed even larger now. She steeled herself, fully aware that she had yet to confront the most significant question of all. What if Mark's sincerity was real? But it inevitably led her back to the very vulnerability she fought so hard to overcome. Emma hesitated, caught between the pursuit of her ambition and the depths of her own emotions. This was only the beginning of a journey where not only their professional futures were at stake, but perhaps her own sense of self. With her breath unwittingly held, she whispered to herself, the time had come to face everything. Emma's thoughts swirled like the leaves caught in a brisk autumn wind, a tempest of potential outcomes, some bright, others dark. She felt the weight of this juncture pressing down on her, amplifying the ambivalence gnashing at the edges of her confidence. The tension in the air was palpable, thick with the possibility of renewal but clouded by the uncertainty of betrayal. She took a moment to collect herself, recalling the ambition that had fueled her aspirations. It was not just about professional achievement. It was about crafting a life marked by integrity and strength. Emma reminded herself that accountability was the backbone of personal growth. Yet, the presence of Mark complicated her resolve. Could she stake her future on a man rooted in a past she had fought so hard to leave behind? Let us set some clear goals, she proposed, her voice even but firm. We need to outline what we want to achieve and how we'll hold each other accountable. If we're doing this, I can't afford to stumble. Agreed, Mark replied, the earnestness in his tone granting her some comfort. They spent the next hour mapping out their objectives, their collaborative energy sparking new ideas and potential pathways. With each shared vision, Emma felt her determination reignite, stoking the embers of her ambition, but with that fire came a creeping doubt. Each proposal brought with it echoes of their past, the miscommunication, the heartbreak, the fleeting promises that had turned to dust. Pushing through those memories was surreal. As they worked side by side, she could see the earnest drive in Mark's eyes, yet she felt the shadow of her scars loom large. What if this doesn't work out? That question hung like a leaden weight in the air between them. Emma faced it head on. What if we fall back into old patterns? Then we learn from them, he stated, unwavering. It's about growth, Emma, not perfection. My journey has taught me that it's okay to stumble, as long as we get back up and keep moving forward. Together. Each word stirred something within her. The perception of failure was a roadblock she had never fully dismantled. Emma had spent so long equating vulnerability with weakness, but now a sliver of clarity broke through, sparking another question. Could her willingness to face this discomfort serve as a new foundation? As they hammered out specifics, her mind drifted. She noticed the cafe items on the table, lingering on the vulnerability of the scones displayed, each one beautifully imperfect, yet perfectly inviting. Savoring the thought, she considered their potential as a metaphor. Could they be like those scones, potentially flawed yet still worthy of appreciation? With newfound resolve, Emma turned her attention to Mark. All right then. Let us draft a detailed outline, not just the what but the how. If we're going to succeed, we need a rigorous plan, marked by check-ins and honest reflections. We owe it to ourselves, and to our vision. Absolutely. The spark in his eyes returned, fueling her spirits. She sensed that she was not just laying down the law for him but for herself as well, boundaries, accountability, and a challenge to redefine their past. Yet, as they drafted their ambitious project, a creeping sensation tinged the edges of Emma's focus. Was she shifting too quickly? As their partnership took shape, did she risk her own sense of clarity amid the emotional fog? With the meeting drawing to a close, Emma gathered her materials, her mind racing. This collaboration meant more than just a project, it was a conscious plunge into the unknown. Would her ambition accompany her to new heights, or would the emotional ties with Mark pull her back into a past she desperately sought to escape? With their agreement solidified, she glanced at Mark, whose expression was a mix of hope and challenge. This isn't just professional for me, she admitted, her voice low but filled with resolve. It's also about me gaining the courage to face my fears, our fears. This is my journey, Mark, and I won't let anything derail it. What are you afraid of? He asked, his tone softening. The question hung uncomfortably in the air, a challenge to delve deeper, to confront what lay hidden beneath her protective shell. Taking a deep breath, Emma searched for the right words. Everything, she finally confessed. But it's time I stop letting that fear dictate my choices. She felt the electric charge in the room shift as Mark's gaze locked onto hers. What lay ahead would test her resilience, but she was determined to step forward, despite the uncertainty lingering in the wings. As she walked away, that question echoed in her mind. Would her past define her, or would she seize this opportunity to chart a different course? The stakes had never felt higher, nor her resolve more tested. Facing this impending confrontation with herself, Emma was acutely aware that a greater truth lay ahead. There was still one looming obstacle, the one buried in her heart and memories. What if, beneath the surface of their collaboration, she discovered something about Mark that made her question not only their partnership but the very core of her identity? Emma stood at the threshold of a new beginning, the world around her ablaze with the urgency of fresh opportunities. The doubts that once engulfed her began to dissipate, replaced by an unwavering determination propelled by a newfound clarity. No longer did she feel like the girl who had shied away from vulnerability. Emma was ready to rewrite her story, embracing the dual challenges inherent in both her professional aspirations and her evolving relationship with Mark. The collaboration was more than a project, it ignited the latent leader within her, one that had been waiting for the right moment to step into the light. With her heart firmly grounded in purpose, Emma dove headfirst into the pilot program, collaborating with the team that assembled around them. Each nurse, every voice shared, added weight to the initiative, transforming their collective vision into a powerful narrative of change. Emma's ability to listen, empathize, and innovate became her trademark. Her leadership flourished, transforming the hospital's operational structure into a model of efficiency and compassion. Day by day, she dismantled the walls that once constrained her. The metrics they established revealed stark improvements, a tangible reflection of Emma's determination and the trust she cultivated through collaboration. Staff turnover diminished, patient satisfaction soared, and the sense of community among the nurses flourished like spring flowers after a long winter. As she stood before her peers, addressing the successes they achieved together, Emma felt a profound shift within herself. The timid nurse who worried incessantly about acceptance had transformed into a confident advocate, revered by colleagues for her commitment to patient care and staff welfare. With every triumph, her influence grew, and she began presenting their findings to the hospital board, a daunting task she would have shunned mere months ago. Today, we're not only sharing metrics, we're sharing a vision, she proclaimed, her voice resonating with authority. This is about ensuring that every patient receives care that reflects our deepest values. We're leading a movement that centers compassion, accountability, and innovation, all pillars that must define our approach. The board's response was overwhelming in endorsement of her initiative, coupled with the promise of supporting its expansion across the network. Emma felt immense pride swell within her. She had stepped beyond her fears, confronting the delicate balance of ambition and emotional openness, and now stood tall in her accomplishment. Mark's presence was no longer an uncertainty but a steady support. Working side by side, they forged not just a professional partnership, but a respectful camaraderie that embraced vulnerability as a strength rather than a liability. He proved himself by delivering critical insights on data-driven solutions, yet never overstepping the boundaries she set for herself. In doing so, he encouraged her to trust him, mirroring the reclamation of her trust in herself. With each board meeting, she encountered new doubts, a mixture of imposter syndrome and fear of exposure. But she tackled these thoughts like stepping stones, each one leading her to a better understanding of her own capabilities. Emma emerged as not just a nurse but a leader with the potential to shape systemic approaches in healthcare. The culmination of her efforts came during a hospital gala, where Emma received the Champion of Care award. Standing on stage, the applause resonated like the beating of her own heart. She glanced out into the audience, spotting familiar faces, her colleagues, her son, and Mark, each beaming with pride. It was a moment flanked by profound realization. She was finally becoming the person she aspired to be. As the microphone trembled slightly in her grip, Emma shared her journey, one steeped in setbacks but marked by resilience. "This award symbolizes our efforts," she declared, her voice emboldened by recognition. "Together, we've learned that vulnerability is not a weakness, but an invitation to forge connections stronger than we thought possible." Satisfaction enveloped her as she stepped down from the stage. She had conquered not just fear but had transformed her life into one filled with purpose. The dual paths of professional achievement and personal reclamation intertwined seamlessly. Now the growing leader and the compassionate nurse were finally aligned within her, and as she walked through the room, fully alive, Emma knew she was no longer defined by her insecurities. She had woven herself into a tapestry of courage, accomplishment, and compassion. The shadows of her past melted away under the brilliance of her present. With this affirmation, both internal and external, she resolved to continue pushing boundaries. Emma's journey proved that heart and ambition could coexist, laying the groundwork for a future where she would not only lead but inspire countless others to embrace their own stories of empowerment. Now was her moment. It was time to take the reins further, to innovate, challenge the status quo, and inspire not just herself, but everyone around her. Emma was ready. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.